Hello and welcome. I'm Louise and here's what happened this week. Executives from dozens of US drone companies visited Taiwan to meet with military officials and drone makers, as both countries look to establish a drone supply chain that does not depend on China. Joy Sung reports.
U.S. drone and anti-drone system makers have wrapped up a 4-day trade mission to Taiwan to deepen cooperation on the unmanned aircraft technology. Hosted by the U.S.'s de facto embassy in Taipei and the trade arm of the U.S. Commerce Department, the mission brought together executives from 26 U.S. companies, as well as Taiwan's drone makers and high-ranking military officials. It included a visit to Taipei's government-run Security Institute, headed by the defense minister.
不管透过这个共同生产，或者是共同研发，或者是任何提供关键的元件等等这些部分，中科院都不会放过任何加入这样国际供应链的一个机会。
The collaboration comes as the U.S. and Taiwan aim to reduce economic reliance on China, especially in the technological domain. Citing national security concerns, U.S. President Joe Biden has been trying to slow down Chinese tech development, pursuing several bans and restrictions targeting Chinese semiconductors, electric vehicles, and related software. As Taiwan faces military pressure from Beijing, drones are an important strategic asset. The technology has proved valuable for countries defending themselves from a larger enemy, as seen in Ukraine's fight with invading Russia. Taiwan and the U.S. partnering on this particular technology, a strong sign to defense analysts of the two countries' close relations, despite being unofficial.
那在更大的这个架构看到是台湾、美国还有民主国家的共同合作，这一点对于就是反制其他具有侵略性的 autocracy 的这些国家来讲是非常有意义的。
Industry experts say Taiwan's drone development is still relatively young and will need more time to mature, especially given the aircraft's complexity.
无人机是一个很复杂的一个 整合性的系统，所以它里面除了包含这个机体本身，飞控电脑很多的感测器，然后 AI 各种应用，所以是相对的复杂。
But given the country's leadership in cutting-edge chips, AI, and electronics, drone makers here have an advantage many others don't, being within arm's reach of some of the best partners there are in advanced tech. And now with the chance to bring the U.S. as a partner in the sector, it's a double win for both countries, for trade as well as for security. Fu Hua Hong and Joyce Zhen for TaiwanPlus.
President Lai Ching-te's new Civil Defense Committee has met for the first time. The initiative brings together representatives from government, academia and the private sector to map out how Taiwan can prepare for any kind of disaster. Louise reports.
The first meeting of President Lai Ching-te's new Civil Defense Committee has taken place in Taipei, bringing together public and private sector resources to make sure Taiwan has the best chance at responding to any natural or man-made disasters. In his opening remarks, Lai said he wants to continue his predecessor Tsai Ing-wen's legacy. She started by taking stock of the country's resources. He said now it's time to focus on verifying those resources and implementing them in case of disaster. He made 3 main points during his introductory speech, saying Taiwan needs to be prepared, particularly during peacetime. He said that Taiwan should strengthen its response mechanisms with confidence and that any plans should be rolled out step by step and in a controlled manner. Now, Taiwan's civil defense includes training civilians in disaster response, making sure that energy and critical infrastructure is sound, making sure that medical care and evacuation procedures are in place, securing communication networks and transport and financial networks, all to the goal of building a stronger and more robust democratic society and safeguarding national security. And all this in the face of natural disasters. Taiwan is extremely prone to earthquakes and typhoons, and of course, an aggressive neighbor. China claims Taiwan as part of its own territory and hasn't ruled out taking the country by force if necessary. Lai plans to achieve all of this, he says, by bringing a wide range of players from across society to the table.
全社会防卫韧性的工作内容涉及的面向非常多元复杂，因此委员会的组成必须公私协力，并且以实务经验为导向，秉持专业、跨领域、年龄跨世代、兼顾性別平衡的原則。
Now, there's a diverse group from across the private sector, government and academia, including Taiwan's Vice President Kim Xiao, government officials from different ministries, including the Defense, Economic, Transportation, Agriculture and Health ministries, religious groups, including Taiwan's Presbyterian Church, who have offered up their churches across Taiwan as places where civil defense training workshops could take place. There are civil defense groups, including the Kuma Academy and Forward Alliance, and also representatives from Taiwan's communication and tech spheres, including the managing director from Google. As President Lai Ching-te said back in June when he announced the formation of the committee, and he also reiterated again today, anything that happens to Taiwan could send ripples through the entire globe. Therefore, Taiwan's issues are international issues, and international issues are Taiwan's. And Lai could be right with Taiwan playing an oversized role in global chip production and being a free and open democracy in Asia. It could be in the rest of the world's interest to make sure that Taiwan remains a free, safe and fully functional country. Eason Pan, Kamashu and Reese Ayres in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's outlying Kinmen County has welcomed its first tour group from China in 5 years. They're the first tourists from China after Beijing lifted a travel ban. Taiwan's tourism agencies are hopeful that the group's arrival will help push the government here in Taiwan to allow group travel to China. But officials say that decision should not be rushed.
我们要看他们有多少的量，再来决定我们这边的政策。目前看起来的量都是非常少。
All eyes are on house prices as new credit controls take effect. The cost of owning your own home in Taiwan is so high, many young people are giving up on the dream. So could these new rules help cool down the sizzling market? John Van Trieste takes a look.
The central bank says there's been too much risky lending for real estate, and it's brought in new credit controls to rein in the housing market. With a few exceptions, there are no more loan repayment grace periods for people with more than one property in their name. And second home buyers will only be able to get loans up to half their new property's value. Market watchers predict fast results.
如果说呢有这个价格下修的情势呢，可能也会是这些二线地带为一个首波可能产生的状态。如果说我们可以看到这些成屋市场呢，或许呢在今年底之前呢，就已经可能可以看到一波降价的溢价的空间。
Taiwan's housing market is one of the least affordable in the world when prices are compared to what the average person makes. Housing justice advocates want the new controls made permanent to make the property ladder more accessible.
央行其实有一些信用管制，它其实是可以长期继续进行下去。的确比较担心的是说，央行就到时候就用，明明是撑不住，但是他却用说效果已经达成了，然后取消了这些相关的信用管制，又让房市就是往杠杆变高，然后继续炒作的方向发展。
But construction firms see a chance of tough times ahead. Smaller firms especially face ruin if people who've already signed up to buy extra properties suddenly find they can't pay for them.
希望政府能不能定一个落日条款，已经在进行中的签完约的呢，不受既往，给他们继续能够履行合约。
For now, market watchers are looking for signs of fewer transactions and more selling pressure. Signs a buyer's market may be on the way. Devin Tsai and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan has nearly 1 million metric tons of rubbish in the open, and more rubbish is being added to it daily. The government says it's a temporary solution while it renovates and builds more incinerators. But local communities say they've had enough of trash mountains. Rick Lowett reports.
Nearly every week, mother of three Peng Guizhi comes to this stream near her home in Judong, northern Taiwan, to test its waters. Using a science kit she got from a local school, Peng checks for dangerous chemicals and pollution leaching, sharing her findings online. She's worried the water is contaminated. Not far from here, the local government has disposed some 5,000 tons of garbage.
它的垃圾直接变成瀑布，在山坡体，而那底下其实是没有铺任何的雨衣布。然后我们会担心它的水这样日积月累的流到山里面，最后再汇集到我们所有人喝的这一个自来水的取水口，其实是很大的一个风险。
For more than 6 years, the 100,000 residents of Judong have lived in the shadow of this mountain of trash. Its stench hangs over the town, and the filth is breeding mosquitoes and other pests that are a risk to public health. This garbage is piling on top of a landfill site that closed decades ago, but the local government says they have nowhere else to put it. The county is making more refuse than it can dispose of, and this is meant to be a temporary solution. But every day, 7 tons of garbage is being added to this pile. Judong is not alone. There are more than 100 of these open-air garbage piles in communities across the country, totaling nearly 1 million metric tons of waste, polluting waterways, killing wildlife, and even catching fire. Taiwan recycles more than half of its rubbish and burns most of what's left in more than 20 incinerators across the country. Many of the facilities are more than 2 decades old and are due for a refurbishment. And while they are offline, the waste piles up. The national government has earmarked nearly $40 million to build more incinerators and to help local governments handle the current situation.
地方政府，它的掩埋场如果有裸露堆置这些垃圾的话，要提出它的改善计划，一定要最长，一定要在3年内完成改善。
Despite Taiwan's high recycling rate, environmental groups warn that the country is still generating an increasing amount of rubbish, particularly plastic. They say people here became overly dependent on single-use food and beverage containers during the pandemic, and that this bad habit is fueling the rising tide of trash.
在台湾，我觉得是更应该要加快去做所谓的重复使用。 或者是重复使用这样子的一个工作，对，那样才能够去真正的去解决我们从源头不断产生过多垃圾这样子的一个问题。
Even in Judong, where Taiwan's mountain of garbage quite literally looms large, Peng says it's hard to get people to face up to the scale of the environmental crisis.
我觉得它好像一个 cancer 一样，就是它会扩张，而且它会让你觉得这很正常。
Like much of Taiwan, Judong has prospered in recent years. The country's tech-based economy is booming, and quality of life here is on the up. But with that prosperity has come more waste. And, as is evident here, if that's not managed responsibly, it can become more than just a blight on the local landscape. Chris Ma and Rick Lowett in Hsinchu County for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Here's What Happened. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before we go, we have to show you Pesto, a king penguin chick in Australia who, at 9 months old, weighs 22.5 kilograms, almost as much as his parents combined. I'm Louise Watt. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Arts and culture are a source of warmth, a means of awakening, a medium for expressing creativity, and a starting point for caring about the world.
对我们生活，我们对重视，其实要有多点关心，真的要付出行动。
Art Echo delivers arts and culture news through biographical storytelling and in-depth reporting to translate meaning, enrich our lives, and provide greater possibilities.
Art Echo, coming Thursday, October 3rd, 6:30 p.m. on TaiwanPlus.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.